Hi boys and girls, welcome to Everyday Math Lesson 12.3, Timelines. The materials that you'll need today, pencil, notebook, math journal, and your template. Let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is go over our math boxes from the previous lesson. So if you can open up your math journal to page 294. If you're noticing that you have any mistakes, please fix those with your pencil and eraser. So for our first question, we're taking a look at favorite animals of Ms. Lee's classroom. And it's asking us which animal was the most popular, and I can see that cubs were the most popular because it has the most X's. For question number 2, when I'm solving, I need to make sure I do whatever in parentheses first. So I know that 14 minus 7 is 7, and then if I add 4, I get 11. Then I need to solve 7 plus 4, which equals 11, and then 14 minus 11 to get me to 3. I know that 12 minus 7 is 5, and then if I add 5 more, I have 10. 7 plus 5 is 12, and then 12 minus 12 equals 0. And the unit I chose to use today were fish. For question 3, I know that 2,469 is less than 12,469. I know 60,278 is greater than 50,278. And I know that 25,100 is less than 25,110. For question 4, what item is the shape of a rectangular prism? Circle the best answer. You should have picked C, a book. For question 5, when you're figuring out the area, you're thinking about how many are inside. So you should have found 4 for the area. When you're looking at the perimeter, you're thinking about how many are around. So I can see I have 4 by 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom, which is 8, and then 1 on each end, giving me 9 and 10 for my perimeter. For question 6, the pet store sold 12 fish, 12 were guppies, so half were guppies, so half of 12 equals 6, and then 1/4 were neons, so 1/4 is half of a half, so I need to think about half of 6, which would be 3. 6 plus 3 is 9, so I know that there are still 3 left over for angelfish. So double check to make sure you have your page correct before moving on to the next part of the lesson. For the next part of the lesson, use either notebook paper or whiteboard and marker if available to write down your answers from the next slide. If the speed is too fast, pause as often as needed. So I want you to think about these questions and write them down in either your notebook or on a whiteboard. But one day is the same thing as how many hours? And you should say it's the same thing as 24 hours. 7 days equals 1 week. So then how many days are in 2 weeks? You should have said 14. So then if we know 1 day is 24 hours, how many hours would be half a day? You should say 12. So if 1 day is 24 hours, if we have 48 hours, how many days is that? You should say 2. If we know that 7 days is the same thing as 1 week, if we have 21 days, how many weeks is that? You should have said 3. How many days are there in a whole year? There are 365. Do you remember how many weeks are in 1 year? There are 52. Now, how many weeks would be in 3 years? Could you add 52 3 times? And you would have had 156. For the next part of the lesson, we will talk about Math Journal pages 295 and 296. 295 looks like this, and it's talking about important events in communication, and we're taking a look at a timeline. For each event below, make a dot on the timeline and write the letter for the event above the dot. So you can see one example they did for us was telephone. Now, when you're looking at your timeline, you can see that it's counting by tens, like it goes from 1870 to 1880. Well, we needed to show 1876. So notice how they went just a little bit past halfway. So kind of just a little bit further than halfway between 1870 and 1880 to put the dot and then put A. So can you take a look? So for radio, point B, I would need to find 1906. Now again, there's not going to be a 1906, but I can see that here's 1900, here's 1910. I need to go just a little bit more than halfway to put my dot and then put my letter B there. Could you press pause and place all your dots and letters on the timeline and then press play when you're ready to check? All right, so I'm going to go in the order of the timeline, not necessarily in the order of the dots. And I want you to double check yours with me. If you're noticing that you have any mistakes, please fix those as we're talking. All right, so choice D, or dot D, was the telegraph, and it was in 1837, so my dot should be right a little bit in front of 1840. Then we skip a little bit to point M, and M was the typewriter, 1867, so it should be just a little bit before 1870. They gave us A. Right after that, we have H, which is the phonograph, 1877, so it's just right after that letter A. Then my letter J, I have movie machine, 1894, so that should be kind of halfway between 1890 and 1900s, a little bit closer though to the 1890s. Then B was the radio, 1906. Letter K was 3D movies, 1922. Right after that I have C, which was television, 1926. Then letter N, which was FM radio, 1933. Letter F, which was the copier, 1937. Letter G was the audio cassette, and 1963. Letter L, video cassettes, 1969, so really close to that 1970. Letter I, personal computer, 1974. And letter E is my last one, the CD player, 1982. So it should be right about there. So again, double check to make sure you have yours correct before moving on to Math Boxes. Our Math Box page is page 296. I'll talk about the directions, then I'll ask that you complete this page on your own. When you're all done, if you want to add that picture to Seesaw for your classroom teacher, we will go over the page in our next video. So for question 1, a baseball costs $3.69, a yo-yo costs $1.49. You buy both. So estimate the cost and then tell me the actual cost. Number 2, Naquan grew 2 inches in, so thinking about what would be the best answer, 1 day, 5 minutes, 1 year, or 24 hours. For question 3, write 4 names for half. If you have fraction cards, you can use those to help. And then write 2 fractions that are greater than half and 2 that are less than a half. Question 4, I bought a beach ball for $1.49 and a sand toy for $3.96. How much change will I get from a $10 bill? For question 5, finding the maximum and the minimum of these amounts. And then for question 6, draw 2 polygons with 4 sides. All right, I'll see you next time.